Welcome to Kelly's Coder. I look like a hillbilly because we're going to paint this C64 case with the only paint, spray paint, that you should ever use on a car, on a computer, on a guitar, on anything that you touch continuously. So the other day I came out of the closet with this broken C64 that I had in a batch last year. Now the case is really worse for wear, as you can see. It's really dodgy, really muggy, not something you can clean up anymore. So I'm going to paint it red. I also ordered a CIA because the keyboard isn't really working completely, so I think it's the CIA1. And I'm still hunting for a dark brown keyboard like this one, because red and dark brown is a really nice color schema. I haven't found one yet. For some reason, replacement Commodore 64 keyboards in the Netherlands on the used markets are really hard to find. And what I find are these C64C keyboards, the white or the gray ones. And I want the dark brown. And we're going to spray this case with the only spray paint that you should ever use on a computer case. And that is a polyurethane car paint. And this is actually a 2K polyurethane car paint. Now a polyurethane is already a harder paint than acrylics. It's also a bit of a thicker paint, so it doesn't drip as much when you apply it wet. But this 2K is a 2 component. So basically there is a section in this rattle can that you pull off the protection tab. Usually you push this in. In this case I need to use this metal ring and then twist it. And then the epoxy sprays into the pigment. And that will get really hard. It's like a Viagra for spray paint. So it protects the case against scratches from your fingernails, dings and dents. And this is basically what they spray on bumpers of cars. Now, ironically, 2 weeks ago I was on a holiday in England and I caused a little traffic accident in a intersection, and it is scratch proof until a certain point, let me put it that way. Yeah, but generally for your fingers, etc., acrylics will really easily scratch. They will chip easily. This stuff won't. It really binds to the plastics. Now there's one drawback. It is really toxic. So use your rubber glove, because it's accumulatively neurotoxic. So the more you touch it in its wet state, the more neurotoxins accumulate in your body, the more chance you go to get a neurological disease. You don't want that. And since you're standing in a cloud of plastic aerosols, use a real respirator. Don't use your fucking paper face mask or your cloth face mask that you wore with COVID, because they don't stop aerosol viruses and they sure as hell don't stop aerosol plastics. And you don't want those in your lungs, trust me. So use a certified respirator with clean filters on it. I can't stress that enough. This stuff is not good for you. So let's prep the case and let's go spray some stuff.
So I first start by heating up the badges and pulling those off. And this badge is really fragile, so I use a little scalpel and then a SMD pair of tweezers and slide them under those, and only push them forwards when that glue is letting go because of the heat of the hairdryer. Don't use a heat gun here, that will melt everything. A hairdryer is enough.
I use my only pair of underpants, so I'm going commando now.
Okay, he had to mention his underwear. So first we clean the whole case, and this is only to get fat off the case, fatty tissue, etc. Because these epoxy paints, these 2K paints, will stick to anything. You don't need a primer, except for sticky, fatty surfaces. They don't like oils. Now this is a new one for me. It is actually a ring that I have to put in. It looks like a piercing, and then I need to unscrew it. And it was a lot of screwing. It was a lot of screwing around. And again, And then I need to yank it out. And then thrust it back and forth several times, according to... And there we go, yes. Now I got experience with this, so that went well. And we take out the cock ring, the lock ring, and then we need to shake it for 2 minutes. Yeah. I feel like 15 years old again. This brings back memories. Now the rubber glove for the TSA exam. Yeah, lube it up. And let's give it one more shake. Put on the respirator and start to paint it. I just paint over all dings and dangs. I'm not going to fill it. It's not worth the effort. And I start with a light coat to get accustomed to this spray paint. Because each paint and each rattle can is a bit different. And here I start to feel confident and I will start to put down those what we call wet layers. You can keck this on pretty nicely. Whoops, the wind almost blew it away. And that is a sign of things to come. But in the meanwhile, I keep adding those wet layers. Now this project took several days, so... Ooh. Yeah, it is really windy today, and you don't want to do this outside. I'm even struggling with the wind. Ideally you would do this inside, but it will leave this powdery residue everywhere. And this paint stand I usually use to paint guitars. The wooden dowel I will screw a guitar to and then use that to paint it. I can turn it around, twist it around. And that I usually do in the community dust bin area. Shh. So look at that, it's nice and glossy. It's a good, nice wet layer. It looks nice. We see the texture from the case in between, even the dings and dangs. And then disaster struck.
Oh fuck. It blew down.
Oh god,
Oh,
look
damn.
at that.
Correct.
Jesus.
Let's send it down. Jesus Christ. The Netherlands. Wind.
Yeah.
Go to the toilet. Come back. It blew down.
So what I need to do is take paint thinner and wipe it completely off. It's still a bit tacky from the epoxy in there. So I'll wait until that is dried, then sand this whole thing and then repaint it again. Now obviously I had to rush this, so I didn't show how I use the paint thinner. But also talking about paint thinner, it's important to put your nozzle in the paint thinner if you're going to use it within the 24 hours. So yeah, that way it won't dry into the cap, and that will be really a bad day. And this is why you want a respirator. Look at that, you see the edge, that's really white, and the inside of the filter is pinkish. That is all the color pigment that you would otherwise have inhaled into your lungs. So this is working. So in the meantime I resprayed it and it's drying this nice, Commodore red, Commodore brown basically, right? And thank God it's selfish. So now I will take care of the CIA. I will add some new solder. It's counterintuitive, but you add new solder in order to desolder it. And then you take the moo gun and you moo out the solder, which I already done. And now just undoing the last few pins that are stuck. These short boards are really annoying to get off. But yeah, take your time. I didn't want to snip it off. I wasn't sure it was the CIA. So I put a socket in there, and these are these cheap Chinese sockets with spring leaf pins, and they always pop up. Really annoying, so I'm popping it back in. Put my hot steaming tip on the little pins. And then we just push the new CIA in. I got this second hand, of course, for 25 euros. Yeah, that's a tight fit, baby. Yeah.
Okay.
It is finally in.
So,
all 40 pins. And let's give it a test. Oh yes, the P and O and the numbers are already working. That's a good sign. That is really nicely. Yeah. And the cursor keys is working without triggering the enter. That was what I first noticed. So it's working. So it's time for the big reveal. Look at that. You can even see your face in the reflection. Yes, there is some orange spilling on it, and I'm perfectly fine because this case is not flat either. It's a bit textured, but look at that. You don't get results like this with acrylics. Now, it is a bit of a fatty finger magnet in this stage still. So don't touch it too much until at least 72 hours. Yeah, it's really nice. And I even like the yellowed keyboard in there. I don't need that brown keyboard. It's a nice color combination this way. And yeah, it's working. The CIA is working. Look at that. Another restored Commodore 64.
Phew! What had to be a little 2-hour project became a disaster. The elements caught it literally and just tossed it onto the balcony, creating even more scratches and dings on the case than there were already on there. So I had to paint it, wipe it off with paint thinner. And then sand off the remainder, flatten it again and repaint it. But there it is, the Rouge de Feu. Or as I like to call it, the Commodore Red. It's almost a brown. And I wanted a dark brown keyboard to go with this, but actually the yellowed keys fit really nicely in this color theme. So I just keep it this way. It's really nice. Now, it does take about 4 weeks to get its permanent hardness, and it's currently a bit of a finger magnet. Fatty fingers, so you can actually polish this as well. That is the great thing about it. So polyurethane, and 2K polyurethane in this case, doesn't need a primer, that's the plus. Also has the ability to nicely settle itself and gets to a high gloss and is really a strong paint. And hence great for computer cases. So I hope you learned something and see you in the next one.